Hi there, Prairie Plant Girl here. It was 12 degrees outside a couple days ago, and we're under a snowfall warning now. So that tells me it's time to get my onions planted, because it must be March. So it's March 8th today, and the varieties I'm going to be planting are two that I grew last year and one that's a new one. So the ones that I grew last year are Superstar White, and it's this onion here. This is one of the more medium-sized ones that I grew last year. And then I had the Spanish onion, and it's called a candy hybrid. And that's this one here. So this is one of the larger ones. I had lots like this. I'll give you a closer look at these in a minute. Another one that I'm trying this year is also a Spanish onion, and it's called Red Carpet, and it's also a hybrid onion. So we'll be trying these out, and hopefully they do just as well as the other ones did. So let's bring these in. You can have a closer look at what these onions that I grew last year are looking like now. And then I'll show you how I plant my onion seeds, and I'll let you know what I'm going to do with them. We'll just move the soil to the side here. I just filled up my trays and I'm soaking my soil to get it nice and wet. So here's the onions that I grew last year. So these are a couple of the Superstar. Very nice onions still, nice and firm. There's another one. I even have some small ones here. I had a couple little ones, I believe, of the Superstar that had started to sprout just a little bit, so I had taken them out and used them, but there's still some smaller ones that are doing great here. Lots of these. So I might use some of these for sets, these very small ones here, if they last another month for me, which I think they will. And then this is one of the candy hybrid. Like, look at the size of this onion. I had lots of this. This isn't a one-off. Lots of nice, big, beautiful onions. I don't think these ones were supposed to store well. One of these wasn't supposed to. Oh, it was the white ones. The white ones weren't supposed to store well, but I mean, they're very solid still. They're very nice onions. So then there's these ones, very nice. I do have one here that's sprouted. It's getting just a little bit soft. So to try and cut, and I could probably use some of that and maybe even use that for green onions there. But most of them are doing really well. Even some of these smaller ones. Another little one here starting to sprout. And again, if it holds on, I might just use it as a set just to see how that works. But overall, I've been very happy with these two varieties. And I'm hoping to get more for next year. As you can see, my onion supply is dwindling here. So let's get these out of the way and get back to the seeds. Okay, so our soil has soaked, and I have two containers here. And these are just like, they probably had strawberries in them. Oh, one was grapes, one was strawberries. So they're just, you know, reused from trays from the grocery store, but they have drainage holes for the bottom, which is what I was looking for when I chose these. This one's really, really wet, so I'm just gonna set it out here. The other one looks like it's still a little bit dry and running out of water, so we'll just dump all that in there. Let that soak up the rest of the water. Now I don't have a ton of soil in here, and I don't need that because right now I'm gonna seed them very thick, and then I will separate them out later on. So again, even with this grape container, I don't know, 3 to 4 centimeters of soil, maybe an inch and a half or so. And that'll be enough. Might top this one up just a little bit. It only has a couple centimeters, but it's pretty good. And I'm just using mostly a peat moss and perlite growing medium. It does have just a little bit of potting soil in it, just because I had it mixed up from something I was doing on the weekend, and it's left over. It's not a special seed starting mix, but it's nice and loose and airy, which is what seeds want to grow. And you know, if I get any big clumps or anything, I just break them up. And occasionally I'll find a small stone or a stick or something, and I just pop that out. More important to pop them out off the top layer than the bottom, but you don't want them getting in the way of the seeds sprouting and coming to the surface. Okay, so since I added more soil to that, we'll just swap these over. Let that soak up the water, and we'll work on this one. So I'm going to start with the red onions in here. I don't think I have a whole lot left of these other two varieties, so they'll share a tray, and I'll get more of these red onions going here. Onions don't need a whole lot. Like I said, I'm just going to plant them early. It's March 8th today, and I'm going to put them just in pretty thick in here, and I'll put about a ½ inch or a couple centimeters of soil on top. And then all you do when they sprout and they get to be about 10 centimeters or 4 inches tall, you just trim them back and you just keep them at that height. And you can keep them like that for a long time while they're getting a good strong root system. So let's get in here and get this started. These are a little bit different looking onion seed. They're kind of a gray. Usually onions are black, I think, when I've seen them. But anyways, with onions, oops, I've already thrown the seeds around. With onions, you're not going to do anything too special here. I don't need to get individual seed trays or anything. I'm just going to sprinkle them around pretty thick, and they're fine with that. And I'm just going to load this up with these seeds here. And then I'm just going to go in, top them up with a couple of centimeters, ½ inch of soil, and then just set them somewhere warm to germinate and make sure they stay moist. I am going to put a fine layer of vermiculite on top, and that'll just help hold the moisture. So I'm going to put a little bit of vermiculite. Whoop. Vermiculite is a natural substance. It's like a rock that's been mined and then it's heated, exploded, and it just has air hole, little kind of holes and pockets and nooks and crannies all over it that just help to hold some moisture, but also allow drainage. So you'll often find it in soil mixes. So I'm just going to wet this down really good because I put dry soil on top of the seeds and then dry vermiculite, so I just want to give this a really good drink. And watering from the top like this with a fine mist will help to keep the seeds where they are so they don't all wind up, you know, in one corner of the tray. But it's also going to help to give the seeds contact with the soil with the weight of this water and the wet soil on top there. It'll just help to kind of give them that extra contact with the soil. Okay, I can actually see water starting to drain out the bottom, so they've definitely got a good drink there. I'm just going to put a little tag in here so I know which onions are which. And since it has its little lid, it does have air, some air venting there, but that'll be fine. Give it a little bit, hold some humidity in. So with these guys, I'm just going to put a stick, will it fit that way? No, we'll put a stick down the middle here. And that'll just help me to keep track of which is which. So let's start with the Superstar, and I'm going to mark it right now so I don't get mixed up later on. And there's the seeds for those. Almost look like tiny little bits of coal. Same thing, just going to sprinkle them in here. I've heard that old onion seed, which this is a year old, doesn't always germinate well, so hopefully I don't have trouble with that. But once these have sprouted and they're starting to grow, you're just going to let them grow to be like 10 centimeters, 4 inches high. And then you'll just take like some scissors or some fine shears. Oh, there really wasn't very many of those. I could spread these other ones out a bit more. You can take some scissors or fine shears and just trim them down and just maintain them at that height of about 10 centimeters or 4 inches tall until they start to really get a really good root system, and then you can just moisten the soil. Sometimes it helps to swish them in some water and separate them out, and either they can be planted outside or they can be potted up to larger pots. Onions can take a fair amount of cold if you've hardened them off well. So they can go out a few weeks usually before your average last frost. Be planted in the garden, and onions are great because you can sneak them in to all those little spots between plants, and most plants won't mind having them there. I know I had them in between my tomatoes, I had them by my peppers, I think I had them growing by broccoli and beans last year. I had them just kind of stuck in anywhere I could fit them. And they grew fine, and the plants around them grew fine too. So there, we got that soil there. Just get that little bit of vermiculite. And again, I'm just using the vermiculite to help to maintain moisture on top of the soil. It's not something you have to do. So if you don't have vermiculite, don't fret about it. And then I'm just going to wet these down again. So planting onions really is that easy. All they're going to do now is sit here, in a nice warm space. They don't even need light at this point. I'll just throw them on a grow shelf. I won't worry about turning the light on. And I'll wait for them to sprout. Once I start to see sprouts happening, I'm going to peel these lids back so that they don't get too humid and some air circulation happens. And at that point, I'll also turn a light on overhead so that they have some light. I tend to keep my grow lights on. They're on a timer. I keep them on for 16 hours a day. That's what I find works well. You don't want to leave them on all the time. Plants do need a rest, so leave them on for about 8 hours, daytime or nighttime, whenever works best for you. As the onions grow, I think I mentioned this earlier, you're going to wait, and once they get to about 10 centimeters, 4 inches, then you're just going to give them a little haircut. Just get out some scissors. It's fun for kids to do. They can help you out by trimming back the onions if you like, and just keep them maintained at that height, and that'll help them to develop the bulb and the root system better and not worry about putting on that top growth. If they start to outgrow this space, they can easily be divided and potted up, but they're happy to grow here for a long time, and you might even be able to keep them in these containers until it's time to put them outside. They can handle some cooler weather and some fairly light frosts. So sometimes it's worth it to put even a few of them out a few weeks before your average expected last frost date, and just be prepared to cover them up or lose them if you don't want to cover them, but if you get a heavy frost. But they're pretty easygoing. So yeah, I don't think there's much else that I can tell you about onions at this point anyways. So they're easy to grow, they store very nicely, and they're easy to tuck in throughout your garden, so give them a try. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.